Shocking revelations in the last audit. Let's continue with our audit of the meeting of the 11th of the 1st, 2020, given to us by J.W. Apostate. Please subscribe to his channel and we'll continue with what this sermon's saying.
Never forgot. You see, I never forgot, even though I was little, the love and attention that my mother gave me. The times when she would sit with me and read the Bible stories to me. Back then it was that little pink book. Learn from the great teacher. But see, these are the things that children need. They need the instruction. They need to know that you care and that you listen to them.
And one of the things that confuses me completely about this is a Jehovah Witness minister, and he's preaching to love and care, but the organisation puts out videos of shunning. And we'll look at this just quickly. Okay, I can come back to that. We'll go to YouTube. If you type in JW shunning, I could put up at least 20 videos from people who have experienced this horrible position that the organisation puts you in. There's incredible information on the subject. Here's even part of the Royal Commission. I won't do it now because I've done the Royal Commission in its totality on the channel just to keep it alive. But even Dr. Phil, look, here's Dr. Phil, 2 minutes worth.
I've always had the attitude, if I go somewhere and my wife and family aren't welcome, then I'm not welcome. And
oh dear, hang on.
If somebody tells me that I am to shun my wife and children, they can kiss my ass. And I don't care.
Sorry about the background noise. I think I'll start that again.
I've always had the attitude, if I go somewhere and my wife and family aren't welcome, then I'm not welcome. And if somebody tells me that I am to shun my wife and children, they can kiss my ass.
Hear to that.
I don't care if it's a church or the government or a school or whoever it is, because I don't believe what label or brand you put on a religion. No God that I know, which is a loving God, is going to ask me as a man to turn my back on my wife and my children.
Here, Dr. Phil.
That's got nothing to do with religion. That's got to do with being a man.
And of course, it's still going.
And I'm just asking you as a man, as a man, is there a point at which, because I've often said, I love the Lord. It's Christians I can't stand. Some of them can be really obnoxious. I mean, come on. Don't you have some people in your faith that just like, oh, come on, shut up. Because I certainly do in mine. I'm just saying, forget about who they are. These are men. These are human beings. These are people that walk the earth, flesh and blood. This isn't God telling you to do this. This is somebody that's interpreting God. That's telling you to fail the test. Because this is a test. Are you going to man up and stand by your wife and children, or are you going to let some guy that was born in Cleveland come tell you that you're supposed to turn your back on your wife and children, and you're going to say, oh, okay, somebody told me that. And then you just follow along and say, well, what do you want me to do now? I really have a problem with the common sense aspect of that.
And there you go, Dr. Phil's take on it. So there's many other videos on this. You can check them out. We'll go back to the meeting and continue the talk.
But we have counsel too for wives. Notice here at Colossians 3 verse 18. And it says, you wives, be in subjection to your husbands, as it is becoming in the Lord. In today's world, that's the word subjection. People think.
I'm finding it interesting how this guy's clearing his throat so much. He looks like he's struggling to me. Somehow or other, he looks like he's struggling with all this. Wives be in subjection to your husbands, and then he clears his throat. I just want you to watch the body language here.
You would sit with me and read the Bible story.
Watch the body language here, viewers.
Learn from the great teacher. But See, these are the things that children need. They need the instruction. They need to know that you care and that you listen to them. But we have counsel too for wives. Notice here at Colossians 3, verse 18. And it says, you wives, be in subjection to your husbands, as it is becoming in the Lord. In today's world, that's the word subjection. People think of it as subjugation. But that's not what it means here. When Jehovah created Eve, remember he said he was going to create a helper for him, a complement to him. They were to be partners.
And the helping aspect of Eve takes nothing away from the helping aspect of Adam towards Eve either.
And so too, we can see the need then that someone has to take the lead. It's like a airplane pilot. He has a co-pilot. They work together. And if they work together, everyone that's on board with them arrives safely to their destination. So as a husband and wife works together.
Now, I agree with that, but what if the engine fails on the plane or there's a mechanical breakdown? It doesn't matter how good you are, that plane's going down. This is what's happening with the Jehovah Witness-ism organization. They're misleading people and they're breaking the engines and people are going down, left, right and center.
Everyone in their family can get through the system of things safely together. But the key is they have to work together in harmony.
The psychological effect of this religious term or religious attitude towards the what would they call it? The system of things. It really undermines the beauty and the wonder of the world that we live in. It's just a terrible undermining of the great people that aren't Jehovah Witnesses and all the other stuff. Sure, there's a bad side to the world, but it's not a great big system outside the Jehovah Witnesses that's working against everybody. That's not it at all.
Husband makes a decision. Imagine how that does him when he sees her offering her full support and helping him in that decision.
Yeah, but what if it's a bad decision? It's the wife's every right to speak up and say no.
Especially if it's something that they have discussed and went over it together. So that shows the teamwork that would be involved. And then same thing for children. In verse 20, it says, you children, be obedient to your parents in everything, for this is well-pleasing to the Lord. And we live in a world today, too, where we often don't see that today in the world when it comes to children. We saw that in the verses we looked at there in 2 Timothy about being disobedient to parents and unthankful. And that's what we see so prevalent today in the world, total disrespect. But yet,
and it's also prevalent in the
Jesus.
Watchtower organization as well. That's why he's clearing his throat.
But yet he had to learn from imperfect parents who took care of him, they educated him, and he continued in obedience and submission to them.
Not necessarily, because Mary at the cross, there was an exchange between Jesus and Mary, and the Lord called her woman. And I think we need to look at this. Will you bear with me while we find this? Jesus' father was God himself, not Joseph. I'm sure he was obedient to Joseph. Jesus calls Mary woman. Let's just see what scripture that's in. Why Jesus called Mary woman? Why does Jesus call Mary woman? Well, let's find out. Hang on, we've got to get past this ad. Just give us 5 seconds. Let's have a look at this. This is a Catholic thing. Let's not worry about that. Let's just see the take on it.
Lester in Cypress, California, listening on Immaculate Heart Radio. You are on with Carlo Broussard. What's your question, Lester?
Hey, thanks for taking my call. And Sai, a big fan of you. I really miss your movie reviews, buddy.
Oh, you're very nice. Thank you. Let's talk about this for a while. We've got a whole segment. Carlo, you can go home. Let's just chat about this. Thank you. Lester, you're very kind. Thank you.
Okay, so quick question. Why didn't Jesus call our Blessed Lady Mother and always refer to her as woman?
Yes, this is a fantastic question. Before I answer it, Lester, I'm going to have to give a plug for my mentor and colleague Tim Staples and his book, Behold Your Mother. It's a sort of an exhaustive defense, biblical and historical defense of the various doctrines and dogmas that we believe as Catholics regarding Mary.
Now,
And
not
in
everything that the
book, he
Catholics
addresses
believe is
this
right,
question
okay?
in great detail. But I'm just going to give you a sneak peek of that, Lester. And basically, fundamentally, it seems, I think we have a high degree of reasonable certitude to conclude that what Jesus is doing, Lester, is he's trying to make a connection. He's trying to draw us to the reality of who Mary is. Namely, she is the prophetical woman spoken of in the Old Testament in what is called the Proto-Evangelium, the first gospel in Genesis chapter 3, verse 15. Lester, do you recall how after Adam and Eve sinned, God speaks to Eve, and God speaking to Satan, and says, I will set enmity, total opposition, separation, between you and the woman, between your seed and her seed. Do you recall that, Lester? You recall that prophecy?
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah. So what we see there is, number one, this woman that God is referring to is going to be the mother of the Messiah, because the seed that will come forth from this woman, which some scholars see to be a hint of the virgin birth of Jesus, right? Because normally the Bible talks about the seed of the man, but here it's talking about the seed of the woman. So here we have this virgin woman giving birth to this male child that's going to crush the head of the serpent. But if you notice, Lester, that woman is not of the seed of Satan. Consequently, we can conclude that this woman is sinless. She's not tainted by sin and the dominion of Satan. And because she's not...
Well, we have to pull him up on there, because all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Oh no, what are the Catholics going to do with this?
...of his seed, we see a hint that this woman will be immaculately conceived like the first woman, because Lester, in the Genesis narrative, Eve was called woman in the first couple of chapters before Eve sinned. She doesn't receive her name until after she sins. So the first woman was created without the stain of original sin. She was pure, she was holy, but she failed. The new woman that God prophesies about is going to be like the first woman in that she will be created free from original sin. But unlike the first woman, she will remain sinless.
Well, I'm sorry, but he's got that completely wrong. They're trying to make Mary sinless. That's not true at all. Gonna have to give them a miss, the poor old Catholics. But why did Jesus call Mary woman instead of mother? The term woman used to address the female today sounds disrespectful, but a better translation today might be madam or some other term of respect. So Jesus wasn't overly dependent on his mother. He'd broken that point. He had more important things to do than that. It was going to cost Mary a lot for emotionally and mentally when Jesus went to the cross, but that's what he did, and that's why he's gone, you're my mother, but woman, I've got bigger things to deal with than what's on your mind.
So imagine being an imperfect person listening to an imperfect person, because we're all imperfect. As you get older, you may see faults now in your parents, but keep in mind we're all imperfect and we're prone to make mistakes. But sometimes we see attitudes that really stand out, and this isn't anything new. Let me share this with you about not being exemplary in behavior. One young boy wrote his father this nasty letter. He says, if you won't take me to Alexandria, I won't write you a letter or speak to you or say goodbye to you. And if you go to Alexandria, I won't hold your hand or even greet you again. This is what will happen if you won't take me. But send me a harp, I beg you. If you don't, I won't eat and I won't drink. So there. Well, do you know when that letter was written? This was actually dug up over 2,000 years ago in Egypt. See, sometimes we might think the Bible's out of date, but yet the same problems existed 2,000 years ago that exist today. It's just today it seems like things are so much more prevalent. So we want to be in subjection and contribute to the peace of the household. But there are challenges that have to be overcome, and that's what we're going to discuss, certain major challenges, such as perhaps you live in a household that's religiously divided, or perhaps not all members of the family are trying to apply Bible counsel. Yet Jehovah still expects us to live by Bible standards, to promote peace, even under unfavorable circumstances. Notice what it says here in 1 Peter chapter 3.
This is good counsel.
And verses 1 and 2. Here it says, in the same way, you wives be in subjection to your husbands, so that if any are not obedient to the word, they may be won without a word through the conduct of their wives, because of having been eyewitnesses of your chaste conduct, together with deep respect. And these words are true. We see it happening all the time with individuals when